So I think this is the end of a long story we've had as North Korea has moved to acquire the ability to target the United States with nuclear weapons.
I mean, you say the end. Of course, many people might think that that means, you know, an inevitable military confrontation. What does the end mean? It's reached this trajectory and this point. Can it put nuclear warheads on it? What is a way of containing it?
Well, I think it's quite clear that what's going to happen is we're going to have to learn to live with this, just as we learned to live with China having nuclear weapons that could target the United States and the Soviet Union before that. That's a very unusual thing. You know, we haven't gone through this in decades, and so I think it's a very jolting and bracing thing, particularly in Washington, D.C., for people to come to grips with. But you know, I think there were some efforts to head this off over the past years. But we are where we are, and I think we now need to start to look at this situation realistically and realize that even if we can't achieve denuclearization, we still have interests in having a stable deterrent relationship with North Korea.
What more diplomacy, or what current state of diplomacy could there be? John Kerry, the former Secretary of State, says diplomacy is not exhausted. So too does the current Secretary of State, Tillerson.
Reality is we had an interest in preventing this outcome, and we failed. But we still have interests. Those interests are deterring North Korea. Those interests are reducing tension so we don't find ourselves stumbling into a war. So I do think that there is a lot to talk about. The challenge that we faced is the North Koreans don't want to talk about giving up their nuclear weapons, and so far that's been the only thing we've wanted to talk about. I think we have to get to the point where, although it's undesirable and no one likes it, we're going to have to start talking to the North Koreans about our interests other than denuclearization, and that includes reducing tension on the peninsula.
So, given again that there seems to be a lot of martial music coming out of Pyongyang, reporters going in, talk about all the billboards they see, they interview people, they interviewed officials who all speak about war and that they will win if there is a war. What odds do you put on a war happening? And let's face it, we're talking about a potential nuclear war.
Yes, sometimes people call this a preventive nuclear war, and I like to point out that that's only true if you do it before they have the nuclear weapons. If we do it now, it will just be a plain old nuclear war. I don't think that there's a chance of us doing this deliberately. I mean, the North Koreans don't want to use their nuclear weapons unless they're attacked, and I think it would be madness for the United States to attack them. However, I do worry about the leadership in both countries, and I worry that people may try to engage in some brinksmanship and maybe get a little close to a war in order to scare the other side, and things could go too far. So I don't worry about waking up one day and anyone deliberately deciding to initiate a war, but I do worry if we don't work to reduce tension that we may find ourselves stumbling into one.
Jeffrey Lewis, thank you so much, and God forbid there is a miscalculation. When we